Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I want to talk about growing up in Chicago, Illinois. So, I lived in California, Los Angeles area all my life. And growing up, I lived here in California, Los Angeles. And I lived right next door to my grandmother. Okay? Everything was great. My grandmother lived next door. And the thing is that not everything was going great growing up. Okay, not everything was great. Like my father was one of those guys that he was having affairs with another. He was having an affair with another woman. Okay, and like I said again, I lived right next door to my grandmother. So my grandmother lived in some apartments next door to us. So it was like next door. So there were two different apartment complexes. One that was two stories, and I lived in that one place that had two stories. And then my grandmother lived next door, which was a one-story building. And the thing I have to say is that growing up, um, like I said, my father was having an affair with another woman, and and it was going on while my mother was having my sister at the time. So it was back like 2001 and 2001 and so on and so on. And we moved to Chicago, Illinois. I don't know for what reason we moved to Chicago, Illinois, but my father was like, we gotta go. So we left our apartment and we went to Chicago, Illinois, and we went on the train. Okay, we went on the Amtrak to Chicago, Illinois, which took us about more or less about 2 days from Los Angeles. So I was like, um, I was okay because I was like, I guess he never really told us we were. I don't even know if I know for a fact we were moving from California to Chicago, Illinois, or not. But what I do know is that we were take. I'm gonna assume we were taking a trip. But when we took that trip, the first thing we did was we got off the train and we went to this Holiday Inn, and that's where we stayed for some time. And then all of a sudden, we had an apartment in Chicago, Illinois, which people like to say that it's the West Side, which was Pilsen, Chicago. So I guess the suburb was Pilsen, and at that apartment, it was horrible. That apartment was one of those that was like two stories, and it was one of those like when you watch a movie from like the 90s and you watch and and the place is like New York, and you look at those places where you go up the stairs and it's all creaking stairs, and everything looks like it's torn down. It's like raggedy. It's all like like for poor people. That's where we lived. And for the most part, I was always homesick. Okay, I'll be honest, I was always homesick. So we left grandmother behind. We left my grandmother behind, and she was the one that said, "You guys should come back. You guys better come back because I need you to return. I need you back because without you, I'm nobody. I'm nothing. I miss you guys. I can't be here without you." So, um, I lived there for about a year, I think. I lived in one apartment with my father at in the beginning, and then he disappeared. He left us for the other person he was having an affair with. And I'll say this: he has a step. He has a kid, okay, and he's my step brother, or I don't know, step brother or half brother. I don't know how you say it at the moment. And I used to go to this school in Pilsen, Chicago, which is called Jungman Elementary, and now it's Jungman magnet school, and I lived in that area. And that was back in the day when there was no GPS on your telephones. Like the telephones never had GPSs. And all we did was we walked around. We took the bus, we took the train to O'Hare, to Midway, and my mother had a friend that would guide us around the whole city, saying, look, because look at, first of all, she lived across the street from us in the first apartment that we lived in before we moved to another apartment. But in the first apartment that we lived in, that lady was my mother's friend, and we were supposed to be moving to Wisconsin. I think we were supposed to move to Wisconsin with that lady, um, and to tell you, I was always homesick of my area, but I lived in an area where it was a Latino area, okay? It was a Latino area, but there was, you could easily get on the bus or something, and you end up in the African American community, okay? In the African American communities, and at the time, I didn't really see too much violence. I didn't really see anything, and I kind of said, this is a new area, and like I said, I was supposed to move to Wisconsin with this lady, but my grandmother said, "You better return." And I was the type of person that got on the plane with my father. Okay, I got on the plane with my father, and I came from Chicago to L.A. and 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 he's the one that left me with my grandmother. He left me with my grandmother, and she took care of me for some time while my mother was coming on the Greyhound back from Chicago to LA because it was a rough time. So I had a couple of friends in Chicago, Illinois. Okay, I had a couple of friends, but then, like, to be honest, I don't remember too much about being in school. I don't remember too much. I don't remember anything, to be honest. Like in school, I don't remember. I just remember that I think you had to go up the stairs to the classrooms, and I think I remember that I was in a science class, and their favorite thing to do was watch the Magic School Bus when it was around. And other than that, I remember that the playground was not so great, and the entrance was kind of scary. Like, I was scared, to be honest. In Chicago, Illinois, I was scared. Like, back when I was a kid, I was frightened. Why? Because I was frightened that my mother wouldn't come back to me, or that I wouldn't be able to get home because I had no key at the time. My mother had to come for me to school while my father was doing his own thing. And the other scary thing is that we used to take the bus, and we used to take the train. And the scariest part about that is that it would get dark, and we would not remember how to get home. We would not know. We just got on the train. We end up in one place. We got on the train, and we end up in another place. We got on the bus, and we end up in many places. So that was a tough time living in Chicago with my father, here and there, because he wasn't around like too much in Chicago. He was here and there, and it was pretty crazy because, like I said, it was a time where GPS was still a luxury to have. Not even, no phone had GPS. You still had to use maps, physical maps. You use a piece of paper that had maps on it, and that was frightening because, like I said, there was nothing that you could do. You just had to take the bus and figure out, let's take the bus and let's end up in this part of Illinois. Let's end up in this part. And that was scary. But like I said, this lady was the one that helped us for the most part. She was the one that said, you are being guided by me. I'm taking you to places. So that's all I have to say for now. that I lived in Chicago, Illinois, Pilsen, the Pilsen community for some time, okay? And my father, he didn't want me to be a low life piece of garbage. So he enrolled me in art school, art classes, which I can say I'm decent at drawing certain things, but I'm not good at drawing people. I'm decent at drawing, and it's decent, and I haven't drawn in a while, but other than that, I do have to say living in Chicago was eye opening, and now that I think of it, I'm like, how did we go from LA all the way to the middle of almost towards the middle of the United States? Like how? So that's all I have to say, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you guys for watching, and as always, I'll catch you guys in another video.